Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Munmun Bhattacharya. Coming up in the next hour. Russia launches most intense retaliatory attack on Ukraine in weeks, with more than 200 missiles and drones. Power, water supply and train services disrupted in Kyiv. Over 60 people killed by gunmen, police stations, railway lines and highways attacked in Pakistan's Festive province of Balochistan. Baloch Liberation Army claims responsibility. Africa to receive its first batch of Mpox vaccines this week. Nigeria rolls out measures to contain the spread as the country records 39 cases of the virus this year. Janmashtami celebrated across India and the world. The festival commemorates birth of Lord Krishna. Russia struck Ukraine with over 200 drones and missiles, targeting primarily its energy and railway infrastructure. The wave of attacks come 3 weeks after Ukraine started an incursion into Russia's Kursk region. A missile hitting a reservoir in Vyshhorod near the Ukrainian capital Kyiv. Aftermath of Russian missile strikes in Ukraine's Dnipro and southern Zaporizhzhia regions. Russia targeted Ukraine with more than 100 missiles and as many drones on Monday. The missile and drone salvo was Russia's most intense in weeks, leading to civilian deaths and striking energy facilities in Ukraine.
It was one of the biggest combined strike, more than 100 missiles of various type and about 100 Shahed drones. And like most previous Russian strike, this is just a sneaky targeting critical civilian infrastructure in majority of our regions in Kharkiv and Kyiv region.
Thousands of Kyiv residents flocked to metro stations to take cover. Zelensky also called on allies to stick to agreements to supply air defense systems and missiles. He also said that Ukraine and partners should make a joint air defense agreement to shoot down Russian drones and missiles. Russia too reported a drone attack on Ukraine. A video on social media showed damage to buildings in Russia's Saratov region. Russian officials said a woman was wounded and homes were damaged as a result of Ukraine's drone attack. Amid the escalation, Russia said the issue of negotiations has lost relevance.
There were no negotiations. As you know, the topic of negotiations at the moment has pretty much lost its relevance. There are a lot of reports about various contacts in the media, and not all of them are correct.
Meanwhile, Russia pummeled Ukrainian forces along the front in the Kursk region of western Russia. Russia is hitting back after Ukraine carved out a slice of its territory in Kursk after smashing through the western Russian border 20 days ago. Bureau Report, DD India. And Dasha Chernyshova now joins us live from Moscow. Dasha, well, we are seeing a wave of missile and drone attacks by Russia into Ukraine. Now, the IAEA DG will lead a mission to inspect the Kursk nuclear power plant in Russia on Tuesday. Are there serious concerns that this site could be endangered amid the hostilities?
That's right. The Russian Federation has been calling for the IAEA specialists to come and assess the situation on the ground when it comes to the Kursk region and the city of Kurchatov, where the Kursk nuclear power plant is located. But Russia has been repeatedly accusing Ukraine of carrying out what Moscow calls nuclear terrorism, with President Vladimir Putin repeatedly saying that there have been drone attacks by the Ukrainian side fight against the nuclear facilities in the Kursk region, as well as in the Zaporizhia region, where the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant is located. So indeed, there are many concerns. Most recently, there were the debris of the Ukrainian drone found near the spent fuel facility on the territory of the Kursk nuclear power plant, and several bridges have been destroyed over the river of Seym. So the understanding is that the IAEA group is there to assess the situation and to provide their conclusion as to the safety of the facility and how the Ukrainian side, well, at least in Russia's perspective, is operating there. However, Ukraine has been accusing Moscow of similar actions when it comes to the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant.
Dasha, also Poland says that a drone likely entered its airspace during the Russian attack on Ukraine. Have Polish authorities taken it up with Moscow?
Well, we understand that to this moment it is the word likely that is defining this whole situation, with 100 of Polish soldiers charged and tasked with finding the debris of that possibly a drone. So it is yet to be established. Meanwhile, we understand that Poland has been on high alert ever since 2022, when the debris from the Ukrainian air defense system have crossed into the Polish territory, as they were active because of the Russian strikes against the Ukrainian military infrastructure. So we're yet to see how Poland will be reacting to that or bringing it up with Russia.
Also, Dasha, Russia has skipped a meeting of UNSC member countries in Geneva. Is the gap only widening between Russia and the West with the scope of finding any common ground diplomatically?
Well, we understand that Moscow wants to maintain the channels of communication with the West, but it constantly says that the Western countries have to take into account Russia's concerns. When it comes to this particular trip of the UN Security Council members to Geneva, the Deputy Permanent Representative of Russia to the United Nations, Dmitry Polyansky, was quoted as saying that this trip does look inappropriate, in his words, against the backdrop of the ongoing global events. He said that there are more important things to do, and this was the initiative of the permanent representatives that he said decided to spend good time in Geneva. Meanwhile, he said there are many hotbeds internationally that deserve the attention. So for Moscow, it is just the matter of being inappropriate at this moment when it comes to this meeting.
Leave it at that. Dasha Chernyshyova reporting from Moscow. The latest US-backed ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas have failed, raising concerns about regional stability. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that the US is still working with Israeli officials to secure a ceasefire. Meanwhile, tensions have surged with Hezbollah's attack on Israel and Iran's claim of a shift in strategic balance.
The latest US-backed ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas have failed after Hamas rejected Israel's new conditions. This setback has raised concerns about regional stability and the effectiveness of international mediation. Reacting to this, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has said that the US is maintaining contact with the Israeli officials and continues working towards a ceasefire deal in Cairo.
What I believe now is that it is incumbent on all parties in the region to work towards de-escalation and stability. And so we are feverishly working in Cairo as we speak with our team and the teams of the other mediators, as well as with the Israelis, to get to a ceasefire and hostage deal along the framework that President Biden laid out, to get calm between Israel and along that border between Israel and Lebanon, and ultimately to get to a broader circumstance of regional stability. And of course, we think that a part of that is a credible path to a two-state solution for the Palestinian people as well.
Meanwhile, tensions flared up beyond Gaza after an attack by Hezbollah on Sunday, which caught Israeli forces off guard. Israel maintains that it preemptively acted to thwart the assault. On Monday, Iran claimed that Israel's deterrent power has been undermined and the strategic balance in the region has shifted against it. After this major missile exchange, many Lebanese are feeling somber and are hopeful for a peace deal.
People are relieved a bit because they took a breather after this attack. We hope that something good will happen, to have some commercial activity and for the situation to improve. Our only hope is that there will be a ceasefire so that we can be done with the war in Gaza and here, for people to relax more.
In central Gaza, Israel has issued additional evacuation orders for residents of Deir al-Balah. Many families and patients are now evacuating Al-Aqsa Hospital, which had been a shelter for both residents and displaced people. With concerns over a wider conflict in West Asia that prompted international airlines to suspend flights to the region or to avoid the affected airspace, the situation remains precarious. Rabindra Chauhan for DD India.
And Sarah Coates now joins us from Tel Aviv. Sarah, with no breakthrough in ceasefire talks in Cairo and Iran saying that retaliation against Israel is inevitable, are there fears that hostilities could escalate further and the scale of the conflict could widen too?
There are certainly fears that hostilities could escalate further, and this is why a ceasefire is being seen as so crucial. Now, as we go to air, red alert sirens are ringing out in northern Israel, while the Israeli military's been carrying out fresh strikes in southern Lebanon, saying that it's targeting Hezbollah infrastructure like weapons storage facilities. So certainly no let-up of hostilities. And also we do need to remember that there's still this threat looming from the Iranians over the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh. He was the head of Hamas's Politburo. And there is a lot of blame being put on Israel for that killing, although Israel has not actually come out to claim it. Now, the Iranians have said today that the response will be definite, it will be calculated, adding from the Foreign Ministry that while Iran doesn't seek to increase tensions, it is not afraid of it. So certainly, once again, the ceasefire is being seen as crucial. Really, the only optimism that we are hearing in terms of getting a deal across the line is from the United States, with very low-level negotiations continuing throughout the course of this week.
Also, Sarah, there are reports that in Sunday's attack, Hezbollah had intended to target the headquarters of two intelligence agencies, Mossad and 8200 in Tel Aviv. What are you picking up on that?
Well, Hezbollah did actually target that very strategic centre. It's very close to where I am. It's in Herzliya, not far from Tel Aviv. In addition to that, Hezbollah says it also shot rockets and drones at some 12 other army bases in the north. So once again, a ceasefire is being seen as crucial to bring down these tensions in the region. We do need to remember what we've been hearing from that group based in Lebanon, that it will continue to fire rockets at Israel as long as there is no ceasefire in place. Now, also, there is a lot of pressure on the Israeli government to actually restore the security situation in Israel's north. More than 60,000 internally displaced Israelis, they have not been able to go home now for more than 10 months. And they are furious with the government, while a number of these regional councils in the north, they've actually put out a statement saying they've completely cut off communication with the Israeli government, including the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, basically saying that they've been abandoned.
Leave it at that. Sarah Coates reporting from Tel Aviv. Still to come on DD India News Hour. As US election campaign heats up, Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris is promising to build more houses to address rising costs burdening Americans. Germany to donate 100,000 Mpox vaccine doses from military stocks to combat outbreak in Africa. The second round of the India-Singapore Ministerial Roundtable held in Singapore. Welcome back. You're watching the India News Hour with me, Munman Bhattacharya. Former US President Donald Trump has signaled that he will skip the September 10 debate against Kamala Harris on ABC News after agreeing to it earlier this month. Trump's Sunday evening social media post ignited speculation and raised eyebrows as he questioned the integrity of the network hosting the debate. Trump specifically targeted ABC News, calling the anchor Jonathan Karl's interview with Senator Tom Cotton biased. Trump sarcastically referred to the network's panel as quote-unquote Trump haters, leading him to reconsider his involvement in the debate. With home prices at record highs and more Americans dedicating large shares of their incomes to housing costs, the Harris-Walz campaign has outlined a policy agenda that it says will spur construction of 3 million new units in 4 years. The United States is facing a shortage of 4 to 7 million housing units, causing rent and home prices to skyrocket. Meanwhile, US Vice President Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will launch a bus tour of southern Georgia this week, looking to build support in a state looming large in the 5th November US presidential election. Democrat Kamala Harris has raised $540 million in little over a month since she began her race for the US presidency. With a surge of donations flowing in during the Democratic National Convention last week, a memo released by Harris's campaign manager has said the $540 million raised included $82 million that came in during the convention week and is a sign of Democratic enthusiasm for her candidacy. Vice President Harris became a candidate for president on the 21st of July when President Joe Biden stepped aside under pressure from fellow Democrats concerned about his cognitive ability after he stumbled during a 27th June debate against Republican Donald Trump. And Kate Fisher now joins us live from Washington, D.C. on that. Kate, there is a huge surge in donations for Harris. Who are among her most ardent supporters and donors?
Well, a lot of this money is coming from everyday Americans who are pledging, $5, $10, $20 to her campaign, inspired, as you mentioned there, by watching the Democratic National Convention on the television in Chicago last week, particularly by her speech, as you mentioned there, the convention saying that $82 million was raised that week, but the hour after her speech was apparently the most money was raised in that hour. As to where it's coming from specifically, Politico, which is a news organization here, has done some research to show that many of these donations have been coming from California, from the tech industry. California is Kamala Harris's home state, home to Silicon Valley. And whereas before she entered the race, a lot of donations were going towards Donald Trump from that area, there has been a rise in the number of tech employees who have been giving to the Democratic Party in the wake of Kamala Harris taking on the nomination. We understand that from the 21st of July, when she took the nomination, to the end of July, $59 million was raised nationally, and more than 20% of that was from California.
Also, Kate, how is housing figuring in the Democratic and Republican campaigns this time around?
Well, Kamala Harris has made it kind of the centerpiece of her economic strategy. Certainly, we don't know that many details still about her policy agenda, but from what we have heard during that speech at the convention, housing is going to be a top priority. She wants to see more new houses being built to try to make it easier for Americans to get on the housing ladder, make it more affordable for them. talking about tax incentives for new construction, and so on. It's also interesting that she has been, in her past, in her history, very pro-homeowners after the crash in 2008, when many people faced losing their house because they could not afford the mortgage repayments. She fought as Attorney General of California to get more money from the mortgage companies, more mortgage allowance for these homeowners who were risking losing their houses. So it's been kind of a theme throughout her political career, homeowning and helping homeowners, helping Americans to own their own property is a strong theme for her.
Okay. Kate, both presidential candidates' campaigns are also turning their sights back on the handful of desperately close swing states where the battle is likely to be decided. Now, Georgia is one of them. Is the state critical in their scheme of things?
Absolutely, it's vital. As you say, there are around 7 crucial swing states that are essentially where this election is going to be decided. And so Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have managed to close the gap. Joe Biden was losing in all of them in the polls, but they have managed to close that gap in these swing states. And Georgia is the one where they're perhaps still the furthest behind Donald Trump, and it is a vital state for both Trump and Harris to win. You can tell how important it is to the Harris campaign. She and Tim Walz, her vice presidential pick, will be touring the state on a bus this week, holding rallies and visiting Georgians, speaking to them and trying to get their message across and turn out the vote. And that's the first state that they visited since that highly successful convention last week in Chicago. They've chosen to go immediately to the state of Georgia, which I think highlights just how important it is. They'll be touring on a bus, holding rallies, and they know that they need to motivate people in Georgia to go to the polls and, of course, attract more Georgians to their campaign.
Kate Fisher reporting from Washington, D.C. On Monday, Pakistan witnessed the most widespread assault by ethnic insurgents in years, resulting in the deaths of over 60 people. Separatist gunmen attacked police stations, railway lines and highways in Pakistan's restive province of Balochistan, coupled with retaliatory operations by security forces. Pakistan's military said 14 soldiers and policemen and 21 militants were killed in fighting. More in this report.
Pakistan witnessed the most widespread assault by ethnic insurgents in years, with over 60 people, including 12 terrorists, killed in 2 separate attacks in less than 24 hours.
One of the martyred was only 22 years old and he was about to get married. He has left behind his old parents.
The first attack took place in the southwestern region of Pakistan, where at least 23 people were brutally killed after terrorists forced them out of their vehicles. The attackers specifically targeted passengers after checking their ethnicity. Buses, vans and trucks travelling along a highway connecting Punjab with Balochistan were stopped one after another. The Baloch Liberation Army has claimed responsibility for the shootings.
My uncle was a teacher, and at 11 o'clock in the night he was going on this route, and in the blast he was martyred.
Around the same time, another group of terrorists launched a coordinated attack on police and security stations. The assault resulted in the deaths of at least 10 people. Pakistan's Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi has condemned the attacks, calling them barbaric. Amish Mahajan's report for DD India.
The second round of the India-Singapore Ministerial Roundtable was held in Singapore on Monday. The Indian ministers, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal and Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav participated in the roundtable meeting. The leaders met Singapore's Ministers for Finance, Home Affairs and Law, Digital Development and Information and Minister for Manpower, and both sides committed to deepening their relationship. On the sidelines of the round table, Union Ministers Nirmala Sitharaman, Dr. S. Jaishankar, Piyush Goyal and Ashwini Vaishnav met with the President of Singapore, Tharman Shanmugaratnam, and discussed ways to further take forward the India-Singapore strategic partnership. The ministers held talks on boosting India-Singapore strategic partnership with focus on key areas of digitalization, green initiatives and skill development. The delegation led by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman called on Singapore's Prime Minister Lawrence Wong and conveyed PM Modi's greetings. The leaders discussed the need to strengthen partnership and broaden cooperation between the two countries. The World Health Organization on Monday launched a 6-month plan to help stop outbreaks of Mpox transmission, including increasing workers in affected countries and boosting surveillance, prevention and response strategies. The Global Health Agency said it expects the plan from September through February next year will require $135 million in funding. It aims to improve fair access to vaccines, notably in African countries hardest hit by the outbreak. In a statement, the WHO said it is significantly scaling up staff in affected countries. In mid-August, WHO classified the current Mpox outbreak as a global health emergency. In its latest update on the outbreak, the African Centers for Disease Control reported that as of Thursday, more than 21,300 suspected or confirmed cases and 590 deaths have been reported this year in 12 African countries. Germany will donate 100,000 Mpox vaccine doses from its military stocks to help contain the outbreak on the African continent in the short term, as well as provide help to the affected countries. Germany will provide the World Health Organization with flexible financial resources via various instruments to combat Mpox and also support its partners in Africa through the Gavi Vaccination Alliance. Germany has around 117,000 doses of JYNNEOS, which is being stockpiled in the German army after Berlin procured it in 2022. German Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the government was looking at the quickest way to get the vaccines to the affected countries, primarily the Democratic Republic of Congo, but also Burundi and neighboring countries in East Africa. Africa is on track to get its initial shipment of vaccines this week as cases of Mpox continue to surge. The first 10,000 doses will be used to address the emerging dangerous strain of the disease. The new variant has spread through the DR Congo, claiming more than 500 lives. Michael Balik has more.
The 10,000 Mpox vaccines en route to Africa have been donated by the US government. They are expected to go to the epicenter of the outbreak in the DR Congo. This comes after medical experts and scientists from the World Health Organization warned of bigger problems if Africa is excluded from the life-saving shots. But even the ones made available are coming in later, not enough for the current surge of Mpox infections reported in several African countries. Today, the World Health Organization has launched a global strategic preparedness and response plan to stop new Mpox outbreaks. The plan will be through coordinated global and regional and national efforts. This comes after the WHO declared the Mpox outbreak a public health emergency of international concern. The $135 million plan will focus on surveillance, response strategies, research, diagnostic tests and vaccines. Local communities will also be empowered to participate in prevention and control measures. Michael Baleke in Kampala for DD India.
Taiwanese military practiced launching anti-amphibious vehicle missiles on Monday as part of a series of drills to heighten readiness and deter a potential attack from China. The two-day exercises feature the new wire-guided TOW missiles previously purchased from the United States, as troops demonstrate the capability of the missile to hit targets at sea in the daytime as well as in nighttime conditions. The missiles are among the most effective and popular anti-tank weapons in the world and a key component in what some experts say is Taiwan's best strategy to resist a potential Chinese invasion. Still to come on DD India News Hour. An analysis on escalation of hostilities between Russia and Ukraine and what it means for any future peace prospects. Over 20,000 birds culled to prevent the spread of bird flu in the Indian state of Odisha.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked, we just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Munmin Bhattacharya. A recap of the headlines. Russia launches most intense retaliatory attack on Ukraine in weeks with more than 200 missiles and drones. Power, water supply and train services disrupted in Kyiv. Over 60 people killed by gunmen, police stations, railway lines and highways attacked in Pakistan's restive province of Balochistan. Baloch Liberation Army claims responsibility. Africa to receive its first batch of Mpox vaccines this week. Nigeria rolls out measures to contain the spread as the country records 39 cases of the virus this year. On the escalation of hostilities between Russia and Ukraine and what really that means for any future prospects, we are now being joined by Professor Rajan Kumar. He is with the School of International Studies, GNU. Professor Kumar, such a pleasure to have you on DD India. The Russia-Ukraine war escalated today and Russia says ceasefire negotiations are no longer relevant. Does it seem this war is here to stay for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, absolutely. What I see that, there is a major escalation as far as this Russia-Ukraine war is concerned. There are two new developments which have taken place. First, that Ukrainians have targeted a civilian area in Russia, and that is an issue. Russian regime, especially President Putin, was very worried because Ukrainian army is in the Russian territory, and this has happened, after World War II. So you can imagine the kind of pressure Russia was already under, especially President Putin. But now the civilian areas, multi-story building has been targeted, and some of the people are saying this is an attack like 9/11, the way the drone hit the multi-story building. So that has created a kind of panic, not only in the region where it was Sartov region where it was attacked, but also people in Moscow and other places are very worried that similar kind of attacks might take place. Just a few days back, some of the drones were also approaching Moscow, although it was hit down by Russian missiles and all. That didn't happen, but there's a real panic in Moscow now. And what you see that barrage of missiles which have been coming from the Russian side. So that is a kind of retaliation that President Putin has to show to his people that Russia is safe, that it is willing to take any action. And they have targeted not just the military establishments in Ukraine, in several cities, but they have also targeted in energy infrastructure. Energy infrastructure is the major focus of Russia because they know that if there is an energy crisis, this will impact every citizen of Ukraine, and they will probably start revolting against the regime of Zelensky. So this is clearly a major escalation, and there is. Let me tell you that there is absolutely no possibility of any ceasefire. Why? Because neither Zelensky wants it at this moment, nor Washington wants it, and Moscow can do nothing at this moment. The major issue in Moscow is how to push Ukrainian army back to Ukraine. So there is no possibility of any ceasefire talk also. And in my view, the crisis or the conflict that you see in that region, and that is going to continue. The crisis would have taken a different shape if there was any change in the leadership of three countries, either Russia, Ukraine, or United States. But unfortunately, that is also not happening. So I do not see any possibility of ceasefire emerging. The countries like the other countries might be suggesting that there should be some kind of this tempering down of the conflict or tension, but unfortunately that is not happening, and what we see is definitely a major escalation.
Professor, you are saying that ceasefire talks are ruled out at this point in time. But Zelensky did tell Indian journalists a few days back that negotiations are ongoing with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey and Switzerland about a second peace summit. Now, could the next summit once again be a diplomatic exercise by Ukraine to rally as much international support as possible like we saw the last time around?
Well, let me tell you that there is no major attempt of ceasefire from the Ukrainian side. The demand from the Ukraine is a maximalist demand, where it is saying that Russian army should vacate the places that the army has occupied, and they're also saying Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, Zelensky is also saying that Russia should withdraw from Crimea. Unfortunately, let me tell you that under no circumstances Russia is going to withdraw from Crimea. Why? Because Crimea is the place where the Russian Black Sea Fleet is located. So Russia will never allow that to happen. Historically, in the last 300 years, if you have seen, that is a very important area where Russia would retain the control, because if that Russia loses the control, Russia will not have access to the Mediterranean Sea through which it can export to other places. So Russia will not allow that to happen, and Russia will go to any extent to save that territory. So what I'm trying to say is that maximalist demand which is coming for any kind of negotiation from Ukrainian side, that is not happening. In fact, some of the suggestions which were coming from the Republican Party of United States that Ukraine should concede some of the territory for some kind of negotiation to start. Unfortunately, neither Ukraine nor Russia, they are not willing to accept that kind of that kind of argument. And what you're talking of Qatar, etc. So they are playing a very marginal role as far as the ceasefire is concerned. US is not serious about ceasefire. That also we should understand. Why? Because the US is not spending that much of finances, or US does not have its forces in Ukraine. So US is not worried about $60 billion kind of help that it's providing. the kind of ceasefire talk that the United States is trying to initiate in, say, for instance, Israel and Gaza, that kind of attempt is not happening in Ukraine. So I do not see any situation emerging where ceasefire talks can take place. And earlier, there was a negotiation in Switzerland where one of the Indian officials also participated, but India refused to sign the document because why? Because Russia was not participating in that negotiation. So India is right that if Russia is not participating, ceasefire cannot happen or the peace talks cannot happen. Similarly, in Qatar has good relation with Ukraine, with the United States, and also with Russia, and it has played some role in the ongoing crisis in Israel and Gaza. But as far as the Russian ceasefire is concerned, let me tell you that the Qatar process is also not a serious exercise, and India is not participating in that exercise anyway. So I don't think that there is any serious attempt of ceasefire as far as the Ukrainian this conflict in Russia-Ukraine is concerned. And unfortunately, the crisis will escalate, and it will become very, very worse in the coming days. What is going to happen? That probably the Russian will surround the Ukrainian army in Kursk, and some kind of, I'm sorry to say, but some kind of massacre might happen, and Ukrainian will retaliate. If that doesn't happen, then probably Russian will move further towards Ukraine, and that again several other cities of Ukraine will come under Russia. And in any case, what I see that there is a major escalation which is going to happen in the coming days as far as the conflict in Ukraine and Russia is concerned.
So taking that point further, Zelensky says Russia was planning to attack Ukraine's Sumy region, and hence to prevent that, it began the Kursk incursion. Is Ukraine looking at an upper hand in the battle, a better negotiation position vis-a-vis Russia, while risking a potentially dangerous escalation?
Oh, certainly, because this Ukrainian incursion into Kursk region and Russian territory that showed some kind of vulnerability of Russia, because the Russian army could not protect it, and not only that, Ukrainian also arrested at least 300. That I know the figure from the Washington Post. I'm saying so 300 Russian army that was arrested. But let me tell you, that was an initial reaction. Russia will not allow any Ukraine in any territory of its own to remain under control of Ukraine for a long time, because the Russian army is too powerful, vis-a-vis the Ukrainian army even today. Yes, Ukraine is being supported by weapons, instruments, etc. From the West, but that is not enough as far as defeating the Russian army is concerned. So very soon you will see that that army which is in now actually the Ukrainian army in Kursk, they have started losing. So they are also making desperate attempt, and one of the desperate attempts of the Ukrainian army is to hit the civilian target. In fact, they should not have done it, because it goes against Ukrainian what you call legitimacy or the war, etc. So in my view, I don't see that Ukraine can remain in the Russian territory for a very long time, unless and until the West, support Ukraine in different way, which means sending army, managing the forces there, etc. Without that, it would be difficult for Ukraine to remain to control the territory of Russia, and very soon Russia will push the Ukrainian army back to Ukraine.
We'll leave it at that. Pleasure joining us, Professor. Thank you so much for sharing your views on the ongoing hostilities between Russia and Ukraine. You are saying that ceasefire talks of any serious nature are unlikely going forward. Let's now take a look at some other stories making news. Over 20,000 birds have been culled to prevent the spread of bird flu in the Indian state of Odisha. The H5N1 avian influenza virus was detected in several poultry farms in the state. A temporary ban on the sale of poultry products has been imposed in the region. Chief Minister of Indian state of Gujarat, Bhupendra Patel, held a high-level emergency meeting in Gandhinagar to assess the impact of heavy rains. Due to heavy rain, many parts of the state have been inundated, displacing hundreds of residents. The Indian Met Department has issued a red alert for the next 2 to 3 days. For the first phase of elections to Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly, the BJP has released a list of star campaigners. This list includes 40 leaders such as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah, BJP's National President JP Nadda and others. Still to come on DD India News Hour. India is immersed in the festive spirit as millions celebrate Janmashtami, marking the birth of Lord Krishna. US Open defending champion Novak Djokovic to kickstart his campaign in New York. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Munmun Bhattacharya. Festive fervour gripped devotees of Lord Krishna on the occasion of Janmashtami on Monday. The festival marks the birth of Lord Krishna and is celebrated with immense devotion and enthusiasm all across the world. Here's a report.
India comes alive with the spirit of devotion as millions across the country celebrate Janmashtami, the birth anniversary of Lord Krishna. From grand temple ceremonies to lively street processions, the country is awash in the colors of faith and festivity. Janmashtami brings together communities in a vivid display of culture and spirituality. In cities like Mathura and Vrindavan, where Krishna is believed to have spent his childhood, the celebrations are particularly grand. Thousands of devotees throng the temples, participating in rituals at the break of dawn till midnight. The temples adorned with flowers, lights and intricate decorations echo with the chants of Hare Krishna and Govinda. The reenactment of Rasa Leela, Krishna's playful dance with gopis, and the playful breaking of the dahi handi or pot of curd are the highlights of the celebrations of Janmashtami. In Maharashtra, dahi handi has evolved into a massive public spectacle with teams of Govindas forming human pyramids to break the pot hung high above the ground. The event draws large crowds and the competition is fierce with prizes worth millions. Children dress up as little Krishnas, adding a touch of innocence and joy to the festivities. In temples, elaborate tablets depicting scenes from Krishna's life are set up, attracting visitors from the community. The celebrations continue well into the night, with the moment of Krishna's birth marked at midnight being the most anticipated event. Devotees gather for special prayers and the temples reverberate with the sounds of conch shells and bells, symbolizing the divine moment when Krishna appeared on earth. Janmashtami is not just a religious observance, it is a celebration of the values and teachings that Krishna imparted through his life. As India celebrates this festival, it serves as a reminder of the timeless message of love, compassion and righteousness that continues to resonate with millions. Kriti Vadhera's report for DD India.
And now Kriti Vadhera joins us live from Birla Mandir in New Delhi. Kriti, Janmashtami has a special significance for Indians and particularly for devotees of Lord Krishna in India and around the world. And Birla Temple, where you are, organizes festivities every year on this day. So how is the mood at the temple today?
Good evening, Munmun, and Hare Krishna to the viewers across the world who are watching this show. And let me tell you, the streets of New Delhi are buzzing with energy. So much vibrant it is, and here at Birla Mandir, which is one of the most famous and biggest temple of Delhi, thousands and thousands of devotees have been coming here since evening. And I've just seen a family, 3 generations together I witnessed here. I would request my camera person to please focus here, the devotees who have been going inside the temple and doing darshan. How was the feel of going inside, and how was this darshan you just did?
Hare Krishna everyone. The feeling is brilliant and vibe is excellent. Atmosphere is amazing. It's good to be here, and one must, if you are in Delhi, you must visit Lakshmi Narayan temple.
So that's how the energy and the vibe of this festivity and celebration is there at Birla Mandir. आपको कैसा लगा अंदर जाकर? आपने क्या लेकर जा रहे हैं आज आप घर में से?
भगवान की बहुत सारा प्यार लेके जा रहे हैं, भगवान की एक सुंदर सी छवि अपने अंदर लेके जा रहे हैं और जितनी सुंदर यहाँ पे एक वाइब है जो आपको आके बस यहीं आके मिलती है, दिल्ली वाले होने का एक सौभाग्य है बिरला मंदिर आना.
So this is how Delhiites, celebrate of visiting this temple here in New Delhi. It's such a beautiful temple, and today, celebrations at massive scales can be seen here. And I'm accompanied by youngsters here who are school students. So it is very important on such celebrations to have their point of view. आपको कैसा लगा आज इतना सेलिब्रेशन जन्माष्टमी को और आप कैसे सेलिब्रेट कर रहे हैं?
ये जो जन्माष्टमी होती है लाइक ये एक अलग ही फीलिंग होती है एंड यंगस्टर्स के लिए ये फीलिंग एक ऐसी होती है लाइक कान्हा जी को सजाना ये एक अलग फीलिंग होती है जो घर पे मम्मियों के साथ हम सजाते हैं और यहाँ पे आके मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा लाइक ऐसे कनेक्शन वाइब मैच हुई है तो मेरे को बहुत अच्छा लगा और काफ़ी लाइक डिजिटल वर्ल्ड से भी हमने इसको कनेक्ट करने की कोशिश करी है लाइक भगवान के साथ हमने लेकिन मेरे को आज जन्माष्टमी में आके बहुत अच्छा लगा मैंने साथ में देखा कि कैसे पूजा पाठ सब कुछ मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा.
Wonderful. So this is how youngsters also of this digital era are participating in the celebrations across India in Janmashtami.
Right, Priti. Thank you so much for bringing us the mood from Birla Temple. Every year we see festivities and rituals being carried out there, and once again people from all sections of society, the elderly and youth, were present there participating in the festivities. Thank you so much for joining us from New Delhi. Moving on now, after the announcement of creation of 5 new districts in the Union Territory of Ladakh in India, the people of the region hoped that it will help take the benefits meant for the people to their doorsteps by bolstering governance in every nook and corner of the Union Territory. Locals say it will help in advancing tourism, boosting development and providing equal opportunities for the people of Ladakh living in far-off areas. DD India spoke to Shering Namgyal, who is the leader of opposition in Ladakh Autonomous Hill Development Council, to know his views. Take a listen.
There is no doubt about that. The creation of 5 new districts would mean that it's always important to take administrative setup more closer to the people. Take the departments more closer to the people so that, Ladakh is a far-flung area. The villages, the places, the subdivisions, the tehsils, the blocks are far and wide scattered across Ladakh. So it's very important for any government to see to it that the people do not have to travel long distances. People will have to, it's always easy for them to approach the administration at their doorstep. So the creation of the 5 new districts will enhance this, it will ease people's issues and developmental work will speed up. People will find it very convenient to reach out to the administration, reach out to the district the deputy commissioner, the police administration, and the heads of the various departments. So definitely yes, this will greatly help in the development of all these different regions in Ladakh. Yes.
Residents of Ladakh have expressed their gratitude to the Indian government following the creation of 5 new districts in the region.
It was a very good decision that has made, and this will lead to more effective and responsive government system. The district admins would be in a better position to address the priorities and needs of their specific communities, leading to more effective and timely actions.
Initially, we are very happy. We welcome this decision. And I believe that Turtuk will be created, upgraded as subdivision, which will eventually help the people of Turtuk, especially the border area, youth like me and the youth who has to come and the people will be greatly benefited in terms of revenue-related services.
India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal wrapped up his visit to Singapore with a dinner roundtable where he engaged with stakeholders from leading global investment firms. While sharing pictures of the dinner roundtable on the microblogging site X, the minister emphasized the unique investment and collaboration opportunities that India provides during the meeting. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for all the sports action. US Open defending champion Novak Djokovic will kickstart his campaign in New York later on Monday. Djokovic begins his hunt for a fifth Flushing Meadows crown when he meets Moldovan Radu Albot in men's singles category. At Paris Olympics, he completed the career Golden Slam. The former world #1 has won all 4 Grand Slam titles and the Olympic gold. Now, Djokovic is aiming to capture the 25th major crown that will see him move past Margaret Court and take sole possession of the all-time record. In another high-profile clash of the US Open, Arina Sabalenka, favourite to win the US Open women's title, will be in action. Sabalenka was forced to miss Wimbledon and Paris Olympics due to her shoulder injury, but recent form suggests she is one of the most in-form players at the US Open, having bagged the Cincinnati Open. Sabalenka will be up against Priscilla Horn, who has an almighty task of beating last year's runner-up in the first round. The Australian world number 205 successfully qualified for a second US Open after beating Kamila Rakimova in the final qualifying round. That's it in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do share your thoughts with us on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Anand Paracharya from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.